If you've ever been tempted to explore the deep web, don't. I know that sounds like the kind of generic warning people post on forums to scare off curious teenagers, but this isn't one of those stories. This isn't about a scam site or some edgy creepypasta you laugh about later. This is the scariest story I've ever come across, and once you hear it, you'll understand why. You'll regret listening, but you won't be able to stop. See, the internet most people know is tame. It's memes, streaming, endless ads shoved in your face. That's the surface. But underneath, there are layers people aren't supposed to touch. Places that don't show up on search engines, places where links vanish after you click them, and conversations delete themselves faster than your brain can even process the words. I once read about a chatroom where names flickered in and out like dying light bulbs. Another thread described a stream that had no broadcaster, just a static camera showing rows of people in masks, unmoving, until you blinked, and they weren't sitting in the same positions anymore. Most of the time, those are just stories, legends that circulate in hushed whispers, scaring people into feeling like they've brushed up against something forbidden. But there are some things out there that don't feel like stories. They feel like traps. They feel like warnings. And this particular story, it isn't the kind of thing you stumble on by accident. It finds you. It waits for you. People who have seen it say it changes the way you look at your own screen. They talk about vanishing, about being watched, about seeing things no human being should ever see. And then they stop talking altogether. So I'll tell you what I read. I'll tell you what happened. But you need to understand, some doors can't be closed once they've been opened. What happens when curiosity drags you too deep? I should probably start with who I was before all of this, because back then I was normal. Or at least, as normal as someone who spends half their life staring at a glowing screen can be. I was 20, a college dropout with too much time and not enough motivation, killing nights the same way a lot of people do, scrolling Reddit threads, getting sucked into pointless online debates, or grinding through games until I couldn't keep my eyes open. I wasn't a thrill seeker. I wasn't chasing ghosts or conspiracies. I was just bored. There's a certain kind of restlessness that comes with long nights in a quiet room when your phone is silent, the fridge hums louder than it should, and the world outside your window feels like it's moved on without you. That's when your mind wanders. That's when you start looking for something more. At first, more meant late-night rabbit holes, unsolved mysteries, creepy Wikipedia articles, conspiracy forums where people swore they had inside knowledge about governments, cults, corporations. Most of it was ridiculous, but some of it, just some, had a way of sticking with me. Inevitably, the threads I read kept circling back to the same subject, the deep web, not the shady marketplaces you hear about in the news, but the darker rumors. Red rooms, live streams where people supposedly bid on torture, hitman services you could access if you knew the right links, secret chatrooms where the members weren't normal. Everyone said the same thing: don't look for them. And of course, the more people said that, the more my curiosity burned. One night I was in a voice call with my buddy James. He'd always been the cautious one. We were gaming, just zoning out, when I mentioned the stuff I'd been reading. "Dude," he said immediately, "you don't want to mess with that place. I'm serious. Half of it's scams and the other half, you don't come back from that." "Come back," I laughed, even though a part of me wondered what he meant. What, like I'll get assassinated through my webcam? No, worse. You'll see stuff you can't unsee. You'll end up on some list. Or you'll click something and it won't just be on your screen anymore. He had that tone, the one people use when they're half joking, half not. But after that call, I couldn't stop thinking about it. The thing about boredom is, it eats at you. It makes your curiosity feel like hunger. And my hunger grew sharper every time I stumbled across another mention of the post. That was how people referred to it, not a post, the post, always vague, always in past tense. Did you ever see the post? Don't share the post if it shows up. Threads about it would vanish overnight, replaced with blank pages or deleted comments. Sometimes replies would be replaced with gibberish, as if someone or something didn't just delete them but scrambled them. I asked around on Discord servers, dropped it casually in a few Reddit subs. Most people ignored me. A few told me it was just an old creepypasta that had gotten out of hand. But the way they said it, it felt rehearsed, like they were reading off a line. By this point, the normalcy of my routine, Reddit scrolling, gaming marathons, endless nights of nothing, was starting to blur. Every click, every search, every half-forgotten rumor became part of the same obsession. I didn't want another story, another vague warning. I wanted to know what the post was, why people talked about it like a curse, why it kept disappearing. Looking back now, maybe I should have let the mystery stay buried, but at the time, it felt like destiny, like I'd already been chosen to find it. And that's when I did. That's when I found the post. It happened on a night like every other, 2 a.m., blue light burning my eyes, caffeine keeping me wired long past the point of exhaustion. I wasn't looking for anything in particular. That's the way these things always start. You don't go hunting monsters. You trip over them in the dark. I was skimming a forum I hadn't seen before, something buried so deep it looked like the digital equivalent of an abandoned basement. Threads were sparse, most in broken English half-coded messages that looked like spam at first glance. But then my screen stuttered, and one thread blinked at the top like it had just been posted. Except the timestamp was wrong, completely wrong. It didn't say today or yesterday. It said 30/4/2029. The future. I clicked it before I could think better of it. The username was gibberish, but what unsettled me most was that it wouldn't stay still. The letters flickered, sometimes symbols, sometimes words, sometimes nothing at all, like it was being overwritten in real time. Every time I blinked, it was different. The post itself was short, barely a paragraph, but there was something about the way it was written, like whoever typed it didn't fully understand human language. The words were broken, stilted, almost mechanical. There is a room, you not go, you not look. If you find it, you follow rule. If not follow, you see, you not come back, do not type name. Do not ask after 2:33. And then below that, in blood red text that didn't match the forum's font, do not watch too long. I read it 3 times trying to make sense of it. A room? What kind of room? Scrolling down, I saw replies, or I thought I did. The first few were normal enough, people calling it fake, a troll, the usual internet noise. But then the comments shifted. Some were nothing but strings of numbers. Some were single words like awake or empty. And some, God, some looked like the users had been in the middle of typing a sentence before their account just cut out. The deeper I scrolled, the more the usernames started flickering, just like the original poster. A few even changed mid-reply, so that the same person seemed to be arguing with themselves in real time. And then suddenly, nothing. The page refreshed itself without me touching anything. All the comments were gone. The thread was blank except for the original post. I should have clicked away. I should have shut my laptop, gone to bed, and forgotten about it like a weird glitch. But there was something magnetic about it. Something that told me this wasn't the first time this post had appeared. I remembered seeing whispers in other corners of the internet. Hints that the post resurfaced every few years like a bad signal, always in places it shouldn't be. Old message boards, dead chatrooms, sites that didn't even exist anymore. People would see it, talk about it briefly, and then either disappear or pretend they'd never read it. The more I thought about it, the more it felt like this was inevitable, like I'd been led here. I refreshed again, and that's when I noticed the final line of the post. It hadn't been there before. If you read, you are chosen. My heart stuttered in my chest. Chosen for what? By who? I copied the text into a document, but when I tried to paste it, the words scrambled themselves. Letters dissolved into symbols, as though the post knew I was trying to move it. That was when a new reply appeared, just one. No username, no timestamp. The forum listed it as deleted. But the words were there, plain as day. Do you want to see the room? I froze. Every instinct told me it was bait, a setup. But another part of me, the reckless, curious part, burned with the urge to click, to say yes, to find out what was behind the rules. Because that's the question no one ever answered in the rumors. What happens if you break them? I thought about James, about how he warned me off all this. I thought about the countless threads I'd read where people begged others not to chase the legend. And yet, in the silence of my dark room, with only the glow of the screen and the hum of my laptop, the temptation was unbearable. Some doors once opened, never close again. And I was about to open one. Getting to the room wasn't straightforward. Of course it was. I had to set things up the way you'd expect: Tor browser, VPN, the whole cloak yourself in digital shadows routine. On the surface, it was tedious, almost boring. A string of copy-pasted commands, waiting for endless loading bars to crawl across the screen. I even laughed at myself once or twice, thinking, God, all this for some dumb forum post. But the deeper I went, the stranger it got. Links didn't behave like links. Some redirected back to themselves in endless loops, like mirrors facing each other. Others opened blank white pages with nothing but a blinking cursor in the top left corner, pulsing like it was breathing. And some seemed to know me. I clicked one URL at random, and the page filled with fragments of old searches I'd made weeks earlier, questions I'd typed into Google at 3 a.m. and immediately forgotten. That was when I stopped laughing. Finally, after what felt like hours, I stumbled across it. A black screen with a single word in red, centered in the middle. Enter. It wasn't a link, not exactly. More like the word itself was alive, waiting. Against every sane impulse in me, I clicked it. The screen went dark for a second too long. Long enough for me to think I bricked my laptop. Then, pixel by pixel, an image bled into view. It was a live stream. Grainy, low resolution, the kind of thing you'd expect from a decade-old webcam. At first, it was almost disappointing. Just a dark room with a single hanging light bulb, swaying gently as if there was a draft. But then the shapes in the background sharpened. They were people. 4 of them, maybe 5, sitting perfectly still on mismatched chairs, facing the camera. Each one wore a mask, not theatrical masks, not horror movie props, but plain, white faces with no features except for black holes where the eyes should be. I leaned closer to the screen, waiting for someone to move to explain what I was seeing. But they didn't. They just sat there, watching. That's when the chat window opened on the side of the stream. At first it was empty, just a black box waiting for input. I hadn't typed anything yet when the first message appeared. User unknown, we see you. A chill ran through me. I glanced at my keyboard, my webcam, the tiny green light that wasn't supposed to be on. My hands hovered over the keys, but before I could touch them, another message popped up. User unknown, why are you here? I swallowed hard. My first instinct was to slam the laptop shut, but something inside me held back. Maybe it was disbelief. Maybe it was the gnawing need to know how far this went. Against every rational thought, I typed a single word. Hello. The reply came instantly. User unknown, you should not speak. And then another, from a different flickering username. Deleted, Rule 1, do not type your name. I froze. They knew the rules. The same rules from the forum post. On screen, one of the masked figures tilted their head just slightly as if they were reacting to the chat. My stomach twisted. This wasn't pre-recorded. It was live. I want to tell you everything I saw in that moment, but I can't. Not because I don't remember. God, I remember every detail. But because I shouldn't. There are things I could describe that would make you picture them too clearly, things that might draw their attention to you. And I won't risk that. But I'll tell you this much. The masks weren't as still as they looked at first. If you stared long enough, you realized they didn't fit the faces beneath. They shifted, like the skin underneath was trying to push through. The chat scrolled faster. User unknown, you are chosen. Deleted, too early, not ready. User unknown, watch until you see. I tried to close the window. Nothing happened. I pressed the escape key, Alt F4, even yanked at the power button, but the stream didn't end. It just kept playing, the masked figures breathing in unison, the light bulb swaying harder now like something was moving the air. Then the feed glitched. For less than a second, the camera angle changed, like the stream had cut to a different perspective, and what I saw made my blood run cold. It wasn't their room anymore. It was mine. My desk, my chair, my unmade bed in the background. And then, as quickly as it appeared, it flicked back to the original feed, the masks, the light, the swaying bulb. The chat exploded. User unknown, he saw. Deleted, too deep now. User unknown, do not leave. My heart hammered in my chest. Every instinct screamed at me to rip the laptop cord from the wall, to smash the screen, to do anything to sever whatever connection had just been made. But I couldn't. My hands wouldn't move. Something impossible had just happened, and instead of running, I kept watching. That's when I realized I wasn't just watching, I was part of the stream. It happened so fast I almost thought I'd imagined it. I blinked, rubbed my eyes, stared again at the scrolling chat box. For a second, nothing. Just the same usernames flickering in and out, spewing their cryptic, glitching lines. And then there it was. My name. Not my screen name, not some alias, my real name. Typed cleanly, perfectly, like I had entered it myself. User unknown, my name is here. The air went out of my lungs. My fingers hovered uselessly over the keyboard, trembling. I hadn't typed that. I swear to you, I hadn't. On screen, the masked figures shifted for the first time. It was subtle at first. One cocked their head. Another leaned forward as though listening closer. But then the figure in the center stood up, stiff and deliberate, and the light above swayed harder as though disturbed by the movement. They held something in their hands, a piece of cardboard scrawled in thick black marker. Numbers. At first I didn't understand, then it clicked. It was a countdown. The number was bold, written like it had been rushed. The chat erupted, flooding with lines that blurred into static before I could read half of them, but some stood out. Deleted, not ready. User unknown, too late. User unknown, watch the end. My pulse hammered in my ears. I slammed the laptop shut. Nothing happened. The hinges clapped closed, but the glow seeped out from the edges like the screen was still alive inside. My room dimmed, flickered, shadows bending unnaturally. I yanked the power cord from the wall. The stream stayed on. Jesus Christ, I muttered under my breath, packing, trying not to look but unable to resist. Every time I glanced back, the countdown was lower. My phone buzzed. I nearly jumped out of my skin. I fumbled it out of my pocket, heart sinking when I saw the notification. Unknown number, no contact, no location, just a message. Keep watching. I dropped the phone onto my bed like it had burned me. The buzzing didn't stop. Another message, then another, the same 2 words, over and over until the sound blended into a continuous drone. Keep watching. Keep watching. Keep watching. I snatched the phone up, turned it off, yanked the battery out in desperation. Silence. For a moment I almost felt relief, until I heard the faint, muffled hum of vibrations. I looked down. The phone wasn't in my hand anymore. It was on the desk next to the laptop, buzzing again even though I'd gutted it. The masked figure raised the cardboard higher. They didn't move otherwise. None of them did. But I could swear their masks were starting to bulge around the edges, as though something behind them was pressing out. I told myself it had to be fake, some elaborate trick, augmented reality, malware, whatever, anything but what it looked like. But then the screen flickered again. Just like before, it cut to another angle. It showed me. My room, my desk, me standing there like a deer in headlights, staring into my own glowing screen. I staggered backward so fast I nearly tripped over my chair. My breath hitched, shallow and sharp. My safe, private little room didn't feel private anymore. It felt like a stage. The chat went wild. User unknown, he sees. Deleted, count with us. User unknown, do not run. I lunged for the window, ripped open the curtains. The street below was empty, silent, but I couldn't shake the feeling that someone, something, was watching from the dark. My neighbors' houses were blacked out, not a single light, as if the entire world had gone still. Back to the screen. The figure holding the countdown sign had moved closer to the camera, much closer. I could see the cardboard trembling slightly in their hands. And behind the mask, God, I'll never forget this, the eyes weren't just holes anymore. They glowed faintly, 2 points of pale light, like something alive was pressing against the sockets. My phone buzzed again. Louder this time, I didn't touch it. The light in my room flickered. Once, twice. The bulb hummed angrily. I reached for the switch, but it went dark before I touched it. For a heartbeat, the only glow came from the laptop screen, painting everything in sickly blue. The masked figure set the cardboard down. The countdown didn't stop. The numbers kept dropping on screen, red text overlaying the feed. My heart thudded painfully. I tried to rip the battery from the laptop, pry it open, anything, but the screws wouldn't budge. The machine vibrated faintly under my hands like it was alive. I shouted, "What do you want from me?" Instant reply in the chat. User unknown, we want you here. I stumbled back. The chat flooded again, usernames flickering too fast to read. My name appeared again, repeated over and over, until it filled the entire side panel. My name, my name, my name. I squeezed my eyes shut, hands over my ears, willing it all away. But I couldn't shut out the sound, the faint, rhythmic knock that echoed from somewhere in the feed. Slow, deliberate. I opened my eyes just enough to peek. The masked figures weren't sitting anymore. They were standing, all of them, perfectly still, shoulder to shoulder, crowding the frame like they were ready to step through. The knocking grew louder, louder, and then I realized it wasn't coming from the laptop. It was coming from my door. 0. The moment the countdown hit, the stream froze for a fraction of a second, just enough to make me think it was finally over, that maybe the whole nightmare had glitched itself out of existence. But then the feed shifted, and I saw my own room. The angle was impossible, tilted slightly from above, as if a camera were hidden in the corner of my ceiling. Every detail was there. The half-empty soda can on my desk, the pile of laundry I'd promised myself I'd fold, the way my curtains swayed from the open window. And me. I was standing in the frame, staring at myself through the screen. A copy of a copy. My stomach dropped so violently I thought I might throw up. The chat exploded. User unknown, he's with us now. Deleted, don't look away. User unknown, open the door. That's when I heard it, the knock. 3 heavy raps, perfectly in sync with the masked figure on the stream, who leaned forward and tapped the lens of the camera. My door rattled faintly from the force, the sound reverberating in the small room until it crawled down my spine. I staggered backward, my pulse screaming in my ears. No, I whispered, though I wasn't sure who I was talking to. The screen, myself, the thing outside my door. The feed zoomed in, unnatural, jerky, like someone was forcing the camera closer. The masked figures filled the frame now, their faces inches from the lens. The paint on their masks looked cracked, as if something beneath was pressing to break through. Knock, knock, knock. If I opened that door, I thought, I don't think I'd be here to tell you this. I gripped the chair by my desk so hard my knuckles ached. Options spun through my head: open the door, hide under the bed, smash the laptop. None felt like survival. None felt real. Another message popped up in the chat, clearer than the rest, almost as if it was addressed only to me. User unknown. You don't have to run, just let us in. I slammed the laptop shut again, but the glow didn't stop. The screen seemed brighter now, leaking pale light into the room, staining the walls. I thought about unplugging the router, ripping the cables out of the wall, but some part of me knew it wouldn't matter. The knock came again, louder. This time the doorframe shook. And I swear to you, I saw the handle twitch, just a millimeter, like someone was testing the lock. I pressed my back to the opposite wall, trying to shrink into nothing. My chest rose and fell in ragged gasps, every breath too loud in the suffocating silence between knocks. I want to describe what I saw on that screen next, but I can't. Not fully. Not because I don't remember, but because I can't risk describing everything. They're still watching, even now. Even as I say this, I can feel them pressing at the edges of memory, waiting for me to let too much slip. What I can tell you is this: the feed wasn't just showing me anymore. It was showing what would happen if I opened that door. And it wasn't me who walked out. The chat went wild again, the usernames multiplying until I couldn't track them all. Some begged me. Some mocked me. Most just repeated the same thing over and over. Let them in. I couldn't take it. I grabbed the lamp off my nightstand, ripped the cord from the wall, and swung it at the laptop. The glass shattered, sparks spat across the desk, but the glow didn't die. The cracked screen still pulsed with pale light, fractured like a spiderweb. And behind those cracks, the masks were still there, closer, breathing. The knock came again, not 3 this time, just 1. A long, slow, deliberate pound that shook the whole door. I don't remember making the decision. I just remember running. Out the window, onto the cold shingles of the roof, scraping my palms raw as I scrambled down. I didn't stop to look back. Didn't stop when my neighbor's yard blurred past, or when my feet hit the asphalt hard enough to sting. I just ran. I don't know how long, I don't know where, but eventually the knocking stopped. The glow faded from behind my eyes, and for the first time since I'd clicked that cursed post, I felt like I could breathe again. That was weeks ago, maybe months, I can't tell anymore. The laptop is gone. I left it behind in that room. Maybe someone found it by now. Maybe they've opened it. All I know is this: the feed never ends. Even if you smash the screen, even if you run. And if you hear a knock, don't open the door. I told myself it was over once I smashed the laptop. That if I killed the signal, if I tore the cables out of the wall and threw the pieces in the dumpster behind my apartment, I'd finally be free. And for a few days, I believed it. I went back to old routines, mindless scrolling, late-night gaming, pretending I could forget the knock at the door. But forgetting doesn't mean escaping. Because now I notice things. Subtle, small, almost laughable if you didn't know the truth. A knock at 3:00 a.m. when no one's there. A voice on the street that calls my name, even though I never see the face it belongs to. My phone buzzing with numbers that flash unknown and vanish before I can even swipe. At first I thought it was just paranoia, trauma, like my brain was playing tricks on me, but then I got the email. No subject line, no sender, just a single sentence. You can't run from the room. I deleted it instantly. Checked my spam folder, my firewalls, every layer of security I could think of. But deep down, I knew it didn't matter. They don't need my permission anymore. Once you've seen it, once the room has noticed you, you're part of it. And now so are you. You think you're just listening to a story, right? Something to pass the time, something spooky to talk about with your friends later. But that's how it always starts. A warning you ignore, a rumor you laugh at, a post you shouldn't have read. I can't prove it, but I think that's the whole point. The story is the post. It spreads by curiosity, by people like you who couldn't resist pressing play. And maybe, just maybe, some of you will make it to the next stage. Most won't. But a few will wake up one night and find a glow where it shouldn't be, a screen that won't turn off, a knock that doesn't stop. If that happens, don't say I didn't warn you. I'd tell you to walk away, to shut this off and never think about it again. But you and I both know it's too late. You're already wondering, already asking questions, already listening for sounds you swore you heard just now. That's how it starts. And if you're hearing this, you're part of it now. That's everything I can risk telling you. I don't know how much longer I'll be able to keep recording without them noticing, but you need to understand, this isn't just a story you scroll past. It's a warning. And if you've made it this far, then you're already closer to the room than you think. So here's what I'll say. If anyone else has seen this post, if anyone else has heard the knocks or gotten the emails, comment below. Don't stay quiet. Share it before it's too late. Sometimes the only thing keeping you safe is proving you're not the only one. And if you think you're immune, if you think this is all just entertainment, remember that's exactly what the room wants. That's how it spreads. That's how it finds new doors to knock on. Soft exhale. Wait. Did you hear that? Silence, then the faint echo of 3 knocks, muffled through walls. They're here. Audio cuts.